Karina, baby, your mama loves you. Do you have any idea how much you look like your mama? You really do. I love you and I miss you. I can't wait to see you. Look, silly Seesaw. The Billy kids were playing in the park. They took turns on the swings, the slides, and the merry-go-rounds. Then they saw something new. It was a seesaw. I wonder what it does, said the Billy kids. One end of the seesaw was up in the air. The other end was down on the ground. The Billy kids went to sit on it, but they both sat at the lower end. Silly thing, they said. It doesn't do anything. Just then the park keeper came along. Silly Billies, said the park keeper. You must sit on each end, then see what happens. The park keeper helped the Billy kids to sit on the other end of the seesaw. Hold on tight, he said. The seesaw went up and down and up and down. Wow, said one Billy kid, high in the air. Whee, said the other, going down fast. And they both agreed the seesaw wasn't so silly after all. There's the Billy kids on the seesaw. That was for June 23rd. Know how much I miss you, baby? I miss you so much, and I love you so much. I really do. But I will always love you, no matter what. No matter what. I don't care what anyone says to you about anything. Your mama loves you. Your mama gave up everything for you. Everything I did was for you because I love you and you're my child. And mamas will do anything for their children. Anything at all. Never wanted to be away from you. Never. Ever, ever, ever. Not even for a single second. Not until I felt you were old enough to go and do a sleepover or something. I never wanted to be away from you. Ever, baby. Mama misses you. I miss you and I love you. The Ugly Duckling is next in our children's literature book. The country was very lovely. Just then it was summer. When wheat was golden and the oats still green, the hay was stacked in the rich low meadows where the stork marched about on his long red legs, chattering in Egyptian, the language his mother had taught him. Round about the field the meadow lay great woods, in the midst of which were deep lakes. Yes, the country certainly was lovely. In the sunniest spot stood an old mansion surrounded by a deep moat, and great dock leaves grew from the walls of the house down to the water's edge. Some of them were so tall that a small child could stand upright under them. In among the leaves it was also scalated, as in the depths of the forest. And there a duck was sitting on her nest. Her little ducklings were just about to be hatched, but she was quite tired of sitting, for it had lasted such a long time. Moreover, she had very few visitors, and the other ducks liked swimming about in the moat better than waddling up to sit under the dock leaves and gossip with her. At last, one egg after another began to crack. Cheep, 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 they said, and the chicks had come to life and were poking their heads out. Quack, quack, said the duck, and then they all quacked their hardest and looked about them on all sides among the green leaves. Their mother allowed them to look as much as they liked, for green is good for the eyes. How big the world is, to be sure, said all the young ones. They certainly now had ever so much more room to move about than when they were inside their eggshells. Do you imagine this is the whole world? Said the mother. It stretches a long way to the other side of the garden, right into the parson's field. Though I have never been as far as that, I suppose you are all here now. She got up and looked about. No, I declare, I have not got you all yet. The biggest egg is still there. How long is this going to take? She said, and settled herself on the nest again. Well, now, are you getting on? Said an old duck who had come to pay her a visit. This one egg is taking such a long time, answered the sitting duck. The shell will not crack, but now you must look at the others. They are the finest ducklings I have ever seen. They are all exactly like their father. The rascal! Yet he never comes to see them. Let me look at the egg which won't crack, said the old duck. You may be sure that it is a turkey's egg. I was cheated like that once, and I had no end of trouble and worry with the creatures. For I may tell you that they are afraid of the water. I simply could not get them into it. I quacked and I snapped at them, but it all did no good. Let me see the egg. Yes, it is a turkey's egg. You just leave it alone and teach the other children to swim. I will sit on it a little longer. I have sat this long already, and I may as well go until the midsummer fair comes around. Please yourself, said the old duck, and away she went. At last the big egg cracked. Cheep, cheep, said the young ones, and trembled out. How big and ugly he was. The duck looked at him. That is a monstrous big duckling, she said. None of the others looked like that. Can he be a turkey chick? Well, we shall soon find that out. Into the water he shall go. If I have to kick him in myself. The next day was gloriously fine, and the sun shone on all the green dock leaves. The mother duck with her whole family went down to the moat. Splash into the water she sprang. Quack, quack, she said, and one duckling after another plopped in. The water dashed over their heads, but they came up again and floated beautifully. Their legs went of themselves, and they were all there. Even the big ugly gray one swam about with them. No, that is no turkey, she said. See how beautifully he uses his legs and how erect his head he holds himself. He is my own chick after all. And not bad looking when you come to look at him properly. Quack, quack. Now come with me, and I will take you into the world and introduce you to the duckyard. But keep close to me at all times, so that no one may tread upon you. And beware of the cat. Then they went into the duckyard, where was a feral uproar going on, for two broods were fighting for the head of the eel, and in the end the cat captured it. That's how things go in the world, said the mother duck. She licked her bill because she wanted the eel head herself. Now use your legs, she said. Mind your quack properly, and bend your necks to the old duck over there. She is the grandest of us all. She has Spanish blood in her veins, and that accounts for her size. And do you see? She has a red rag around her leg. That is a wonderfully fine thing. And the most extraordinary mark of distinction any duck can have. It shows clearly that she is not to be parted with, and that she is worthy of recognition, both by beast and man. Quack now, don't turn your toes in. A well brought up duckling keeps his legs wide apart, just like father and mother. That's it. Now bend your heads and say quack. They did as they were bid, but the other ducks round about looked at them and said quite loudly, just look there. Now we are to have that tribe, just as if there were not enough of us already. And oh dear, how ugly that duckling is. We won't stand him. And a duck flew at him at once and bit him on the neck. Let him be, said the mother. He is doing no harm. Very likely not, said the biter, but he is the ugliest and queerest, that he must be wicked. Those are handsome children mother has, said the old duck with the rag around her leg. They are all good-looking except for this one. He is not a good specimen. It's a pity you can't make him over again. That can't be done, your grace, said the mother duck. He is not handsome, but he is a thoroughly good creature, and he swims as beautifully as any of the others. I think I might venture even to add that I think he will improve as he goes on, or perhaps in time he may grow smaller. He was too long in the egg, and so he has not come out with a very good figure. And then she patted his neck and stroked him down. Besides, he is a drake, said she. So it doesn't not matter so much. I believe he will be very strong, and I don't doubt but he will make his way into this world. The other ducklings are very pretty, said the old duck. Now make yourself quite at home, and if you find a head of an eel, you may bring it to me. After that, they felt quite at home. But the poor duckling, which had been the last to come out of the shell, and who was so ugly, was bitten and pushed about, and made fun of by both the ducks and the hens. He is too big, they all said, and the turkey cock, who was born with his spurs on, and therefore thought himself quite an emperor, puffed himself up like a vessel in a full sail, made for him, and gobbled till he came quite red in the face. The poor duckling was at his wit's end, and did not know which way to turn. He was in despair, because he was so ugly, and the butt of the whole duckyard. So the first day passed, and afterwards matters grew worse and worse. The poor duckling was chased and hassled by all of them. Even his brothers and sisters ill-used him. They were always saying, if only the cat would get hold of you, you hideous object. Even his mother said, I wish to goodness you were miles away. The duck bit him, the hens pecked him, and the girl who fed them kicked him aside. Then he ran off and flew right over the hedge, where the little birds flew up into the air in a fright. This is because I am so ugly, I thought, the poor ducklings, shouted his eyes. But he ran on all the same, and he came to a great marsh, where the wild ducks lived. He was so tired and miserable that he stayed there the whole night. In the morning, the wild ducks flew up to inspect their new comrade. "What sort of creature are you?" they inquired, and the duckling turned from them to the side and greeted them as well as he could. "You are frightfully ugly," said the wild ducks, "but that does not matter to us as long as you do not marry into our family." Poor fellow, he has not thought of marriage. All he wanted was permission to lie among the rushes and to drink a little of the marsh water. He stayed there 2 whole days. Then 2 wild geese came, or rather 2 wild ganders. They were not looking out of the shell, and therefore rather parched. "I say, comrade," they said, "you are so ugly that we have taken quite a fancy to you. Will you join us and be a bird of passenger? There is another marsh close by, and there are some good charming wild geese there. All are sweet young ladies who can say quack. You are ugly enough to make your fortune among them." Just at that moment, bang bang was heard up above, and both the wild geese fell dead among the reeds, and the water turned blood red. Bang bang went the gun, and the whole flock of wild geese flew up from the rush, and the shots peppered among them again. There are a grand shooting party, and the sportsmen lay hidden around in the marsh. Some even sat on the branches of the trees which overhung the water. The blue smoke rose like clouds among the dark trees and swept over the pool. The receiving dogs wandered about in the swamp. Splash, splash! The rushes and weeds bent beneath their tread on all sides. I was terribly alarmed to the poor ducklings. He twisted his head around to get it under his wings, and just at that moment a frightful big dog appeared close beside him. His tongue hung right out of his mouth, and his eyes glared wickedly. He opened his great chasm of a mouth, closed it to the ducklings, showing his sharp teeth, and splash went on without touching him. "Oh, thank heaven," sighed the duckling. "I am so ugly that even the dog won't bite me." Then he lay quite still while the shots whistled among the bushes, and bang after bang rent the air. Late in the day the noise ceased, but even then the poor duckling did not dare to get up. He waited several hours more before he looked about, and then he hurried away from the marsh as fast as he could. He ran across fields and meadows, and there was such a wind that he had hard work to make his way. Towards night he reached the poor little cottage. It was such a miserable hovel that it remained standing, only because it could not make up its mind which way to fall. The wind whistled so frantically round the duckling that he had to sit on his tail to resist it, and it blew harder and even harder. Then he saw that the door had fallen off the hinge, and the hinge was cocked, and he could creep into the house through the croak, and by the means he made his way into the room. Through the crack, and by this means he made his way into the room. An old woman lived there, with her cat and her hen. The cat, whom she called Sunny, could arch his back, purr, and even give off sparks. Though for that you had to strike his fur the wrong way. The hen had quite tiny short legs, and she was called Chickadee Lowlegs. She laid good eggs, and the old woman was as fond of her as if she had been her own child. In the morning, the strange duckling was discovered immediately, and the cat began to purr and the hen to cluck. "What on earth is that?" said the old woman, looking round. But her sight was not as good as she thought. The duckling was a fat duck which had escaped. "This is a wonderful find," she said. "Now I shall have duck eggs, if only it is not a drake. We must wait and see about that." So she took the duckling on trial for 3 weeks, but no eggs made their appearance. The cat was master of this house, and the hen is its mistress. They always said, "We are the world," for they thought that they represented the half of the world, and that quite a better half. The duckling thought that there might be 2 opinions on the fact, but the cat would not hear of it. "Can you lay eggs?" she asked. "No." "Have the goodness to hold your tongue, then." And the cat said, "Can you arch your back and purr? Or give off sparks?" "No." "Then you had better keep your opinions to yourself when people of sense are speaking." The duckling sat in the corner, nursing his ill humor. Then he began to think of the fresh air and the sunshine, and an uncontrollable longing seized him to float on the water. At last he could not help telling the hen about it. "What on earth possessed you?" she asked. "You have nothing to do. This is why you get these freaks into your head. Lay some eggs and take to purring, and you will get over it." So there's the hen and the roosters. Oh, look at that duckling. It's not so ugly or so big. "But it is so delicious to float on the water," said the duckling. "It is so delicious to feel the rushing over your head when you dive to the bottom. When that would be fine and amusement," said the hen. "I think you have gone mad," as the cat about it. "He is the wisest creature I know. Ask him if he is fond of floating on the water or diving under it. I say nothing about myself. Ask our mistress herself, the old woman. This is no one clever in the world than she is. Do you suppose she has any desire to float on the water or to duck underneath it?" "You do not understand me," said the duckling. "Well, if we don't understand you, you should, I suppose. You don't consider yourself clever than the cat or the old woman, not to mention me. Don't make a fool of yourself, child, and thank your stars for all the good we have done for you. Have you not lived in this warm room and in such security that you might have learned something? But you are an idiot, and there is no pleasure in associating with you. You may believe me. I mean you will. I tell you home truths, and there is no surer way than that of knowing who are one's friends. You just set about laying some eggs, or learn to purr, or to emit sparks. I think I will go out into the wild world," said the duckling. "Oh, do so by all means," said the hen. So away went the duckling. He floated on the water and ducked underneath it, and he was looked askance at the sighted by every living creature for his ugliness. Now the autumn came on. The leaves in the wood turned yellow and brown. The wind took hold of them, and they danced about. The sky looked very old, very cold, and the clouds hung heavy with snow and hail. A raven stood on the fence and croaked, "Caw, caw," from the sheer cold. It made one shiver only to think of it. The poor duckling certainly was in a bad case. One evening the sun was just sitting in wintry splendor when the flock of beautiful large birds appeared out of the bushes. The duckling had never seen anything so beautiful. They were dazzling white with long waving necks, and they were swans, and utterly a particular cried. They sprung out their majestical broad wings and flew away from the cold regions to warmer lands and open seas. They mounted so high, so very high, and the ugly little duckling became strangely uneasy. He circled round and round in the water like a wheel, craning his neck up into the air after them. Then he uttered a shriek, so piercing and so strange that he was quite frightened by it himself. Oh, he could not forget those beautiful birds, those happy birds, and as soon as they were out of sight, he ducked right down to the bottom. And when he came up again, he was quite beside himself. He did not know what the birds were, or whether they flew, or whither they flew. But all the same, he was more drawn towards them than he had ever been by any creature before. He did not envy them in the least. It occurred to him even to wish to be such a marvel of beauty. He would have been thankful if only the ducks would have tolerated him among them. The poor, ugly creature. The winter was so bitterly cold that the ducklings were obliged to swim about in the water to keep it from freezing over. But every night the hole in which he swam got smaller and smaller. Then it froze so hard that the surface ice cracked, and the duckling had to use his legs all the time, but that the ice should not freeze around him. At last he was so weary that he could move no more, and he was frozen fast into the ice. Early in the morning, a peasant came among and saw him. He went out onto the ice and hammered a hole in it with his heavy wooden shoe, and carried the duckling home to his wife. There he soon revived. The children wanted to play with him, and the duckling thought that they were doing an ill use of him, and rushed in his fright into a milk pan, and the milk squirted out all over him. The woman shrieked and threw up her hands. Then he flew into the butter cask and down into the meal tub and out again. Just imagine what he looked like by the time the woman screamed and tried to hit him with her fire tongs. The children tumbled over one another trying to catch him, and they screamed with laughter. By good luck the door stood open, and the duckling flew out among the bushes and the newly falling snow, and he lied there thoroughly exhausted. But it would be too sad to mention all the provisions and the misery he had to go through during the hard winter. When the sun began to shine warmly again, the duckling was in the marsh, lying along the rushes. The larks were singing, and the beautiful spring had come. Then all at once he raised his wings, and they flapped with much greater strength than before, and bore him only vigorously. Before he had known where he was, he found himself in a large garden where the apple trees were all full blossom, and the air was scented with lilacs. long branches of which overhung the intended shores of the lake. He saw the spring's freshness was delicious. Just in front of him he saw these beautiful white swans advancing towards him from the thicket, with rustled feathers they swam lightly over the water. The ducklings recognized the majestic birds, and was overcome by a strange melancholy. I will fly to them, the royal birds, and they will hack me to pieces, because I am so ugly. Venture to approach them, but it won't matter. Better to be killed by them than to be snapped at by the ducks, pecked at by the hens, spoiled by the henwife, or suffered at much misery in the winter. So he flew into the water and swam towards the steely swans. They saw him and darted towards him with ruffled feathers. Kill me, said the poor creature, and he bowed his head towards the water and awaited his death. But what did he see reflected in the transparent water? He saw below him his own image, but he was no longer a clumsy duck-gray bird, ugly and ungainly. He was himself a swan. It does no matter in the lightest heaving be born in a duckyard if only you come out of a swan's egg. He felt quite glad of all the misery and tribulations he had gone through, for he was better able to appreciate his good fortune now, and all the beauty which greeted him. The big swans swam round and round him and stroked him with their bills. Some little children came into the garden with corn and pieces of bread, which they threw into the water, and the smallest one cried out, "There is a new one!" The older children shouted with joy, "Yes, a new one has come!" And they clapped their hands and danced about, running after their father and mother. They threw the bread into the water, and one and all said, "The new one is the prettiest of them all. He is so young and so handsome." And the old swans bent their heads and did homage before him. He felt quite shy, and he hid his head under his wing, but did not know what to think. He was so happy, but not at all proud, for his heart never became proud. He thought of how he had been pursued and scoffed, and now he heard them all say that he was the most beautiful of all the beautiful birds. The lilacs bent their boughs right down into the water before him, and the bright sun was warm and cheering. He rustled his feathers and raised his slender neck aloft, saying with exultation in his heart, "I never dreamt of so much happiness when I was an ugly duckling." All right, baby. Mama loves you so incredibly much. Let's do "We sit and watch the rain as it falls from the sky, and we are glad to be inside where it is warm and dry. Oh yes, I do love the rain. It keeps the earth so clean and helps the pretty flowers grow from the mountains to the streams." You know what? I'm losing time with you every second of every single day, and I think about you constantly. And I know that God promises that He will restore the time that the locusts have eaten. He also says, though, in the Bible that you are to respect your husband no matter what and align yourself with him no matter what, because your husband is the lead of the household. I don't want you to feel this way. I don't want you to do the same things I did. I want you to have more opportunities than me. As a woman, though, my place in my heart is inside my home no matter what. I will always become a heart of the home in the family that I join when it is my family, you know, and you are definitely a part of my family, and Papa will always be a part of my family too. It doesn't matter that he never counted me as a part of his immediate, you know. Anyway, baby, I love you, and I want you to have all the opportunities in the entire world. That's why I taught you how to read when you were little. That's why we did Your Baby Can Discover, and Your Baby Can Learn, and Your Baby Can Read, and Signing Time, and we were doing the different languages, and you were learning instruments, and you were doing math, and you were doing all kinds of things. That's why Mom wanted to teach you those things and homeschool you from the beginning. I just wanted you to have those opportunities, you know, where I struggled with school and I struggled with reading. I wanted you, when I was little, I wanted you to have those opportunities that I didn't have when I was little, because it takes time and dedication for a parent to do that with their child. And I want you to have those opportunities, you know, of doing whatever you want to do, whether that's being a housewife and homemaker like your mama, or whether that's being a career woman like your grandmother. You know, whatever makes your heart happy is what I want you to do. And, you know, but in the Bible has some very good learning lessons. It says in the Bible that your husband will be judged for the way that he treated you by God. And I personally believe that it's not my place to judge the leader of the home, the man of the home. It's not my place to do anything like that. It's my place to love unconditionally my entire family, no matter what. Love is to be shared. It's not to be divided. Alright? Shared love is the way that it works. It makes it a circle, right? Everything is shared. If you divide love, I don't want you to divide love with anybody. Just love on people. Love on yourself. Protect yourself, though. Mama loves you, and Mama misses you. And always remember, you own your own body. Don't ever let someone, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it's your husband, I don't care who it is, don't ever let someone tell you that they own you. They don't. You own yourself. I've always tried to teach you that you own your own body. That is your body. You get, other people ask you for a hug, but you don't have to give a hug, okay? You don't have to. It's okay for you to say no to things. Mama just loves you, baby, and I just want you to be safe. I love you, and I miss you. I know that God will protect you. God lets us go through trials and tribulations because He's trying to soften our hearts with hard blows. This life is full of trials, things that are really, really hard, and tribulations, things that are really, really sad. You know, and that creates our story of our lives. And I wanted you to have the happiest story ever. Mama would take you to every and any event that you wanted to go to. The night before, you'd usually tell me, Mama, can we go here? Can we go there? And I'd say, yes, 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 yes. Of course we can. You know, because I just wanted you to have any opportunity that you wanted. I wanted to be able to bring you places and do things with you. And I got to do that with you while I was there. And that's a blessing. And I hang on to that. I hang on to the memories. I hang on to you. Everything will eventually be okay. It'll work itself out, I promise you. I love you, and I miss you. Okay? Let's do Lila Tove, and good night to you. Lila Tove, may your dreams come true. We sing Lila Tove, may Israel protect you throughout the night until we reach the morning light. I love you, my baby, and I miss you.